neighbors all get together and have an association, homeowners association.
Yeah.
Looked like that was on, I don't know what other. Dean, my son, thought he'd go over and see if maybe they wanted to rent it for cattle pasture. They're going out of business.
What Andy's doing? Yeah.
Yeah, like a good pasture. Been used for that off and on. It wasn't supposed to be, but it has been. So.
All right. Sorry to interrupt, but we do have a quorum and can begin the meeting. I really appreciate your patience as we work through those technical difficulties. Yeah, we can begin now, though. I think Chairman Larkin is not in the meeting. So, Vice Chair Brasher, if you could start until Mr. Larkin can join us, I would appreciate it.
Sure, I'll be happy to. And I don't know that I'll be aware when he joins us, so please let me know, and then obviously I'll just hand it back over to him. So let's see, it's 1:22, so I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting of the Santa Cruz Active Management Area Groundwater User Advisory Council to order. Today is the 31st of August. And obviously we're holding this meeting virtually, so I appreciate you guys and all your efforts trying to get this pulled together, over the computer and telephones. I know there's a lot of coordination that goes on, so I appreciate it. Let's go ahead and just kind of introduce ourselves, if we could, as far as the JUAC board goes. I'm Gary Brasher, Vice Chair, and I'll be sitting in at least temporarily until Mark joins up. And I know, Ron, why don't you introduce yourself?
Ron Fish, Rancher, GUAC member.
All righty. And let's see, Alejandro, you're on, aren't you?
Yes, this is Alejandro Bárcenas with the City of Nogales, UAC member.
Very good. And going back to ADWR, I don't believe Dan Bell is no longer on. Is that correct?
We have Dan Bell and Joel Kramer as the other members.
Are they on though, I mean?
Oh, Joel is.
Okay, Joel, would you go ahead and introduce yourself, please? Can you hear me okay, Joel? Maybe not.
Yeah, no, I can hear you guys. I just was having to push the space bar here.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Yes. Well, I can unmute myself, so I'm holding the space bar. But yes, Joel Kramer, Rio Rico, retired principal, school board, Santa Cruz Valley.
Great.
So I'm
very good. We have a quorum then, and so ADWR staff, would you guys go ahead and introduce who all we have on the call today?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. My name is Kyle Miller. I am AMA Director.
Kennedy Shepard, GUAC Coordinator. Melissa Sykes, Water Management Assistance Program Coordinator.
Jenna Norris, Governor's Water Council Coordinator.
Nick Valverde here.
in this area.
Hydrology Field Services.
And McKenna Welsh, Management Plan Specialist at ADWR.
Very good. Thank you all. Just out of curiosity, are you all at DWR, are you all in the same room or are you in different locations also?
We have 4 of us in one room together at ADWR, and then the rest of us are spread out. We're doing kind of a mix in-office teleworking setup right now.
Very good. So you're kind of like we are. You're spread out all over the place. Well, thank you guys for introducing yourselves. And let's go ahead and get right to it then. I've got the agenda in front of me. Why don't I ask Kennedy Shepard, give us an update, anything you need as far as our webinar logistics today, and if you have any comments or input as we move through the meeting agenda today.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So just some webinar logistics. Before we get going, please ask members of the public, please keep your phone muted during the meeting. This helps with our audio feedback. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the chat box. We will read and address them at the end of each presentation. If you do want to speak to the council, the call to public is your time to do so. This meeting is being recorded and it will be posted along with the presentations to ADWR's website. And if you're having any technical difficulties, please feel free to reach out to our help desk. Their information is on the screen, or you can message the host, AZ Department of Water Resources, in the chat. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Board members, any questions for for Kennedy before we move on to item number 3? Just in terms of how we're operating the meeting or anything you might do on your computers or phones. And if not, then we'll go ahead to item number 3, agenda item number 3, which is the Santa Cruz AMA groundwater monitoring update. And Nick, I apologize. I'll hand it over to you to give us an update on the AMA, please.
Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me clearly?
Yeah, we
Okay,
can hear you
cool.
well.
All right, so we'll go through these slides and just kind of give you guys an update on what's going on with the Santa Cruz. The first slide here is just a couple pictures of our groundwater sites that we visit and some streamflow data that we collect annually and continuously on the Santa Cruz River. The next slide, please. So first, this map here is a water level map that we did in 2020 for the SCAMA AMA during our basin sweep. Just to give you a reference, the last basin sweep we did was in 2016. This map also includes our index wells that are measured on different frequencies throughout the year. ADWR measured 110 non-index wells during our basin sweep in 2020. Along with that, you can see the red dots, which are index wells that we measure annually. There are 64 of those. 37 of those are measured quarterly, and 27 of those are also measured annually. We have a half dozen or so wells, transducer wells in the Santa Cruz AMA. I probably should have clarified that the Santa Cruz AMA is the bottom center outline there in the map, following the I-19 and the Santa Cruz River. As of right now, all the data that for the 2020 basin sweep, along with the 2016 basin sweep, is being QA/QC'd for a water level change map report that hopefully we'll have out in 2022 for you guys, if you're interested in looking at that data. Next slide, please. So this map is actually the Santa Cruz AMA boundary line and water level change map that was conducted for the water year 20 and 2021, which is October 1st through September 30th. This map shows red dots and blue dots. Of course, red dots are declining water levels, blue dots are increasing water levels. Some red dots are larger than others, as you can see down in the Keno Springs area, Meadow Hills, Arivaca, and some in, I want to say that's North River Road, just east of the river and the airport there. There's a little community. But this map here is just a preliminary map. It shows preliminary data that doesn't really show any marks or remarks of wells that may have been flagged for pumping or nearby pumping, which may affect the hydrographs. I probably should have added a couple hydrographs to this just to give you guys a better understanding, or you could visualize maybe what's been going on for the last year or two. So I apologize for that. But SCAMA is a very fluid and fluctuates basin throughout the year. It's always changing. So if you're looking for any in-depth data, you could probably email me and I could send you to the GWSI homepage there, and you could look up any specific wells or data or any areas that you might be interested in, or red dots that might be in your neighborhood. Next slide, please. This project here is always ongoing. We started this project back in 2007. It is our Santa Cruz River surface water project. This project here, we take quarterly measurements to monitor the interaction between the Santa Cruz River and the Santa Cruz micro basin. We have 7 surface water measurements along with 9 wells that start from Rio Rico and go all the way down to Arivaca that we collect data on. The 7 surface water sites, we start just below Rio Rico, which is just below the discharge point for the national what am I drawing a blank here? The Nogales International Wastewater Treatment Plant, sorry. And we start at Rio Rico, Palo Dorado, Santa Gratuitas, Tubac, Chavez Siding, Amato, all the way down to Elephant Head. For the past few years now, around Tubac, Chavez Siding is pretty much where we run out of water and we're unable to get stream flow measurements. Just to let you know that the data is also used by the modelers to help develop the SCAMA model. That's kind of the whole reason that this was put together, so they could see the interaction between the two systems. Just to let you know that we also added 2 more monitoring sites to our quarterly index wells that are part of the National Groundwater Initiative program. One of those wells is located, I believe, near Memorial Park, which is a city of Nogales well. And then the other one is a DEQ well. That's a monitoring well, and that's closer to the port of entry. And there's 2 of them. And they're just 2 4-inch PVC monitoring wells that DEQ has. And the last slide is just a picture of, you might be able to hit the play button on there, Chairman, I'm not sure. And it's just a video that we took back, I believe in February, and it just shows how the Santa Cruz River just recedes so quick into the stream bed. It was just something cool that we don't really see that much. And we track this river probably just south of Elephant Head, maybe a couple miles south, and the water just started to dissipate, and that was pretty much it. It happens just like that. So that's kind of what DWR has been doing down in the Santa Cruz AMA the last year. Again, if you have any questions, my email's there, my phone number's there. If you know your way around the department webpage, you can look at the open file reports on the hydrology page of the ADWR website. And like I said, hopefully, once all this data is compiled and QA/QC'd, we'll have something out to you guys in 2022 for a water level change map series down in the Santa Cruz AMA. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If not, enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Thank you so much, Nick. JUAC board members, any questions of Nick before we move on to another item?
Thanks, Ben.
This is Ron. The only question I'd have, which I always bring up, is, and Alejandro's aware of it, the water that's coming in from Mexico through Oso Canyon and coming down and eventually entering in the Santa Cruz River. Is anything being attended to that?
Yes, we have been monitoring that flow. We are in contact with Mexico and see what they're planning to do there. Again, sometimes the wastewater treatment plant that they have there is discharging the effluent to that creek. They also wash, I guess. And lately we had we detected some problems there. We took some samples, and there are some coliform there that is indication that the treatment is not working as should be. So they are aware of that. We notified ADQ, and they are trying to correct that. And that was about 2 weeks ago that we talked to them.
All right. I'd like to bring up two more things on that factor. I've been watching that since that affects us down at the farm down there. That affects us. I've been watching it periodically, pretty often, and the water was very discolored, smelled very bad up until we checked it about 4 or 5 days ago, and there's no smell to it anymore, and it's clear. So I don't know whether that water is coming from the rain or whether that water has came from the discharge plant. But the other factor I had is that what kind of damage it's doing to our aquifer down there, because that water from Mexico doesn't clear up at the Mexican Santa Cruz River entryway. It's about half a mile down before it actually gets into the Santa Cruz River, or maybe 3/4 of a mile. and all the cottonwoods above the entry point are nice and green and lush, and the trees right there where that discharge water's been coming in, especially behind our farm, are all turning yellow and look really sick.
Mm.
And you get down below it a ways farther, then the trees are lush again. But I'm just wondering if we've got a problem there of getting some contaminants in that aquifer that we don't want.
If I may, I think the problem could be that because they were discharging some untreated sewage, that they probably, what they normally do, they put some chlorine into those flows, and that could be the impact that the trees are having. That's too much chlorine.
Oh, I see, yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice to know if we could test it or something some way, because if it's not bad for the trees, it's not going to be good for the people. So
what are we doing here at the city? Because we're concerned with that too. We have all our wells there. We're taking samples every 2 weeks to make sure that what's coming in. So we have communicated this to ADQ and to the binational committee, so they are aware that we're really concerned about this.
Is there some ways we can get some samples up there? You know, your wells are down farther down farther north, and there's some way we could get some sample that up closer to where we're looking like we're having a problem. See what the water situation is, whether it's contaminated or what the situation is.
We're taking the samples out of the Eltham right at the border.
Oh, are you? Okay. Yeah, because there's no water coming down to Santa Cruz at all, just periodically.
Yeah.
So from where that water comes in from Oso Canyon south, there's no water flow there. It was a couple times, but not a constant flow. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that situation there. I'd like to see some follow-up on it.
Thank you, Ron and Alejandro. I've made some notes. I'll pass these on to Chairman Larkin as well. I had a couple just real simple questions, but Nick, one of the maps you were showing, which was showing some of the wells that were in a depletion status. I think at the bottom it said it was for year 2020, and then it said and 2021. But I guess my question was that primarily for 2020, maybe to January of 2021? Did it include up to June of this year, or up to May, or was it before or after the rains? I was just curious if any of our recent, rain that we've all had, which has been pretty prolific, was included in any of that data.
The annual wells were taken, those would have got done in March or April of that 2020 year. The basin sweep was done in January of 20, and then all the quarterly wells, of course, are done, February, May, August, November, I believe. So up until now, yes, all of the data that you see is for this year, 2020, all the way back until, of course, January.
Okay, so it does include a lot of this moisture we've received recently. I'm just always curious and I don't know what the correlation is, or if there is one you can directly point to between the rainfall we have and some of the declining water levels in these wells that we're monitoring.
Yeah, hopefully once we clean up the data a little bit and look a little more in depth, what's going on, we might have a better understanding of that.
Yeah.
I would say Keith Nelson, I believe he's a GUAC member. He works on the SCAMA model, him and Olga. I mean, if you might want to reach out to them, maybe they might be able to give you a better understanding of why that is.
Very
might
good.
Be above my pay grade.
Yeah. All righty. Thank you guys very much. Any other questions on that from the board members? And if not, then we'll move on to agenda item number 4, groundwater withdrawal fee recommendations. And I believe Mr. Miller, Director Miller, you were going to go ahead and talk a little bit about reviewing the fees, the rates, money collected over the last few years, and then the board will discuss any recommendations for changes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Before I begin, I believe Chairman Larkin has joined the meeting.
Oh, good.
And If that's the case, Mr. Chairman, could you please announce your presence?
Okay, it says I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
There we go.
I can hear you, yes.
We sure can.
Okay, good enough.
Welcome to the meeting, and I'm going to, we just started agenda item number 4. And Mr. Chairman, I'm going to hand the meeting back over to you. We just called on Director Miller to give us an update on withdrawal fees, et cetera. And welcome to the meeting, Mark.
Okay, thanks, Gary.
All right, thank you, members of the council. I will be providing a management plan assistance program update, and at the completion of that, we'll be requesting your recommendation for 2022 withdrawal fees. Withdrawal fees for year 2021 are set at $3 per acre foot, as they have been for many years. $2 of that is going towards the Water Management Assistance Program, and $1 towards administration and enforcement. Today, GUAC members are asked to make a recommendation to the ADWR Director regarding the rate of withdrawal fees for reporting year 2022, which will be collected in calendar year 2023. And for reference, this table on your screen now provides withdrawal fee rates and money collected for the past 5 years. The highlighted sections under 2022 are the withdrawal fee statutory framework. So the component of the fee that goes towards the Water Management Assistance Program, and that's money set aside for conservation, augmentation, and research of water availability in your AMA, cannot exceed $2 per acre foot. And the admin and enforcement component can be between 50 cents and $1 per acre foot. Below that table is a breakdown of the current Water Management Assistance Program fund. The current balance in the WMAP fund is $328,820, of which $11,938 is committed, leaving you a total balance of $316,882 available in that fund. There are currently no projects outside of the Borderlands Restoration Network project being funded with those WMAP dollars. Since we last met, the final groundwater conservation grant project contract has been executed. The Water Conservation Education and Technology contract will expire in April of 2023, and the other project, Groundwater Recharge on Working Lands by Local Youth to Enhance Ecosystem Services, will be completed in October of 2025. So that concludes my WMAP update, and before asking members to recommend a withdrawal fee rate for the reporting year 2022, we'll be glad to answer any questions on this document or anything that I've just said.
Okay, thank you. And do we have any questions on that from anybody?
You know, I've got just, Mr. Chair, I've got just a simple question. It's my own memory. It seemed like there was, on one of the previous charts, it showed some funds that were already committed for. Now, is that the groundwater recharge on work lands by local youth enhancement and ecosystems, that 11,938? Is that the same number that we've already set aside?
Yes, it is.
That's okay. Very good. We went from one slide to the next. I couldn't remember the number. So, okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, anything else from anybody? Okay, if nothing, you know what is, I'm going to open the floor up for just discussion on the rates. I know, we probably all rehashed this. I don't know, every year that we're asked to do this, but does anybody have any input on the rates?
I guess we've pretty well been committed all these years down the line, although we rejected one time and our rejection was sold out. So we're probably pretty well committed to what we've been done in the past.
Yeah, I think so, because I remember, I think particularly Ron, you and I had talked about dropping some of the rates, particularly for the agricultural users on there, that being a big part of our budget. And yeah, I seem to remember that it got shot down up at the state. So I'm, and I won't make a motion on it yet. I'll just let it out there. Is I'm thinking, we ought to keep the rates the same. The $2 on the withdrawal fee, and then what is it? It's $1 for the. Is that for the augmentation?
So the $2 goes towards the conservation and augmentation, and $1 goes to admin and enforcement.
Okay.
I'd like to ask one question real quick, Mark, not to interrupt you, but
sure,
to be clarify myself. Our balance, the Santa Cruz balance on the augmentation fund, if I'm right, after everything that's been committed already, is still $316,000.
Yes, you're correct.
And there's nothing out of that $360,000 that has been committed for the future then, huh?
Not at this moment, no.
Okay, that clarifies. I didn't realize we had that much left in the funds.
I have a question, if I may, Chair.
Yes, yeah, please, Alejandro.
What are the chances that this money be used for something else?
I mean, and let me just ask, you mean something else within the department or just swept into the general fund or something?
Yeah, that's my question.
A good one, thank you.
So this money is set aside, it's in a different account for the WMAP, so it's totally separate from any operating revenue or anything like that. The admin and enforcement fee does go into what we call the Water Resources Fund, and that pays for things like AMA salaries, travel, when we have GUAC meetings in person, if we do any enforcement action, that kind of a thing. But the WMAP funds, which are the conservation and augmentation, that's a separate account and can't be swept away.
Oh, okay, and I think that is a concern, because if we do have something, coming down the pike, and I know particularly from Alejandro's point of view, the city of Nogales is more than likely going to be somebody who'd come up with a proposal. But that money, we're not going to lose that money by just banking it right now.
You are correct. You will not lose that money.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, let me put out then, and just so we get it for the minutes, this is Mark Larkin, I'm going to make a motion that that the withdrawal fees, the overall withdrawal fees, stay the same as at $2 for the conservation and augmentation, and $1 for the administrative costs, and making that motion. And then I do want to talk about the WQRF funds separately. So making a motion that we keep the withdrawal fees the same at $3 an acre foot.
I'll second the motion. This is Gary, and then we can discuss, Mr. Chairman.
Can I ask one before we vote on this? Can I ask one question, maybe to the director?
Yeah. Yeah, please.
What was the amount collected for 2021 of the?
So we haven't collected 2021 yet, but for 2020, which we are just finishing up, we collected $28,457 into the WMAP and $14,228 into the admin and enforcement account, and that's a grand total of $45,782.
Okay, so that's probably pretty close to normal, I would imagine, no?
Yeah, that's pretty much an average year for you guys.
Yeah, so we banked a pretty good hunk of money just from year to year. Then we've got $316,000. All right.
You have.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt on that, Mark, but I wanted to clarify that for my own self.
Oh no, thank you. Thanks, Ron.
I had seconded the motion, Mr. Chairman, so we can discuss the vote as you feel appropriate.
Okay, so I'll open it for discussion. Anybody got anything to say on that? and you know what? Let me ask, since I'm flying blind here on the flip phone, I'm assuming we got 4 people, right? We've got me, Gary, Ron, and Alejandro, right? And Alejandro, am I right? You are the city. You've got the city portfolio, right?
As far as I know.
Okay. Okay. So we do have. We can take a vote. I guess only one absent is Danny.
Did I miss? You got Joel Kramer in there, right? Or did I miss that?
Yeah, Kramer.
Joel Kramer is here as well, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So
okay,
Dan,
we got plenty.
Dan Bell still is on the committee. I know there was talk about that he might not run the last time. Did he go ahead and run again?
I think he got reappointed. I just saw him yesterday, but I didn't even ask him. So
I'm presuming that he still was, but okay.
Okay, so with that out of the way, I just want to make sure we had everybody. So if we don't have any discussion, can we go ahead and put it to a vote? So the way I guess we do this on here is everybody just chime in with your name and a vote. A yes vote is to continue the $3 an acre foot withdrawal fees, split $2 for the conservation fund and $1 for admin. So I'll go ahead and so Mark Larkin vote yes.
Gary Brasher votes yes.
Ron Fish votes yes.
Alejandro
Kramer, yes.
And Alejandro, did we step on you there?
I guess the vote yes.
Okay. Okay, it looks like it's unanimous, so the motion passes. And now on the water quality assurance funds, which for some of the industrial users are we still, last one I looked at, it was still $2.12 an acre foot?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and is that something that the GUAC has input on or not?
No, that fee is set in statute.
Okay, that's what seemed to be what I recalled there. So, and that's going to be staying the same for any industrial users, anybody else who's necessarily has to put into that fund, correct?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay, thank you. That also goes into the same fund, I presume?
That goes into a different fund.
Is that
no, I was going to say that specifically is the water quality assurance fund, correct?
Right, so that goes to a separate fund that works on water quality issues.
Okay, that's a separate fund then, huh?
Okay. Okay, and then and you know what? Let me just ask this. This is it's not really an agenda item, but it's nothing we have to vote on. Is that money on is there any way that well, say the city of Nogales could tap in or ask for funds from that fund if they've got, I mean, with some water quality questions, or whether they needed to do some sort of, emergency treatment or something like that? What's the process for making requests of that fund?
So, Mr. Chair, the AMA section doesn't actually administer that fund, but I'd be happy to do some research and provide that information to the members on how you can access the fund.
Okay, I was just thinking about that because we're kind of a backwater down here on the border, but we do have those issues, and maybe there's a possibility of getting help if we need any of those. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to add something on that, Mark. As long as we're going to put in the work, put Kyle to work or whoever's going to check into that. Is that, that's a separate fund, and is that kept as a Santa Cruz County fund and not, not mixed in with Pima and Parnell and all of that? It's a separate fund kept in Santa Cruz County?
I'm not totally sure on that, if it's all one statewide fund or if it's broken out, but.
If it is a separate fund just for Santa Cruz County, could we find out what the total bank is banked on in that one?
The balance, sure.
Okay, I think that'd be interesting to know. I think you brought up some good thoughts there, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. Thanks. Okay, we are. Okay, so I guess next we'll move on to agenda number 5, or agenda item number 5, which is the director's report, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. So as you all know, annual reports are due on March 31st of each year. And now that we're about 4 months past that date, I'd like to provide a quick summary for our 2020 annual reports. About 6,500 annual reports should be filed for the AMAs for calendar year 2020, and we've so far received about 6,081 reports. There are 426 failure to files remaining, which is about a 6.4% failure to file rate. And that number is significantly lower than this time last year when we stood at about 10.5% at the end of August. But obviously last year had some unique circumstances, and the 6.4% is much closer. It's a little bit below normal where we normally are, so we're doing better than average. We typically aim to end the year with that number below 5% across all the AMAs. We sent failure to file letters in mid-July to owners of all missing reports, which generated an additional wave of filing, and we will begin final contacts of those failure to files in a few weeks, which we hope is going to further reduce that final failure to file number. The table on the left breaks down the reports received by those filed online or as hard copy. 2,927 reports, or 48%, were filed online, and 3,154 reports, or 52%, were filed as hard copies in the office here. And that's an increase in the number of reports filed online and continues a trend we've seen over the last several years, which we're trying to encourage whenever we can for people to file online. This year, in collaboration with our IT team, we did make a few adjustments to the electronic annual reporting tool to improve functionality and performance, and we've heard positive feedback so far there. Some of our forms are yet to be available electronically, such as the municipal provider forms, irrigation district forms, and the BMP forms. Those are a little bit more complex to do electronically and to get into our database. However, we are trying to add more forms to the electronic tool each year, so the number of reports filed online has steadily increased over the years, and we hope to see that trend continue as we add more forms. And we prefer people filing online and try to steer them that way for a variety of reasons. It's beneficial to us because the data from those reports enters into our database automatically, which reduces human error and allows our staff to devote more time to quality control, planning activities, our data transparency initiatives, and other water resources efforts, as opposed to spending hours and hours and often months and months on data entry. We are currently transitioning from data entry to quality control checks of that reported data, and that's a long and detailed process that can take us several months, but it's really important and critical to our statewide use estimates, which we will have completed on November 1st at the latest, and we'll be glad to present on those at a future meeting. We've also dedicated a significant amount of staff time to developing and publishing sector-specific web pages, and we've already received really positive feedback on those. If you can see the screen, Kennedy's going to be clicking through some of those, just providing some examples. These pages contain information about the mandatory conservation programs, some details on each sector, and a frequently asked questions section. Our planners worked really hard on those pages, and each one is impressive, so I just want to encourage you to take a look and let us know if you have any thoughts or suggestions on ways we can improve those and make them easier to navigate, or if there's some information you'd like to see. Our planners and data specialists are also working on sector-specific data dashboards, and those are going to contribute to our data sharing and transparency initiative and should be useful for anyone looking to learn more about water use in the AMAs. Those dashboards should be published around the end of the year, and we think they're going to dovetail nicely with our 5th management plan process. We have a really strong team in place, and I'm looking forward to sharing those finished products with you as soon as they're ready and published on our page. Outside the core AMA section, our groundwater modeling unit continues making progress on their various projects, including finishing their updates to the Prescott AMA model, developing a new groundwater model for the Phoenix AMA, combining the East and West Salt River Valley and the Hassayampa subbasins, updating the Tucson AMA model, and participating in the Pinal Stakeholders Group activities and meetings. And our field services unit is preparing the Phoenix AMA water level change map series report and conducting water level measurement site visits for index wells statewide, similar to what Nick presented on earlier in the meeting. And then finally, our public stakeholder processes are ongoing. The Arizona Reconsultation Committee met on May 26th and continues to hold modeling and analysis work group meetings, having met on March 11th and May 13th since the last GAC meeting. And recordings of those meetings are available on the website. And we've made progress on management plans activities, and McKenna Welsh will be providing an update, more detailed update on those later in the meeting. And likewise, the Governor's Water Augmentation, Innovation, and Conservation Council continues to hold committee meetings, and a summary of their activities will be provided by Jenna Norris here in just a couple minutes. So that concludes the update from me. I will be glad to take any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, sir. And then, does the committee have any, the council have any questions for the director?
No.
I'm good.
Okay, let's, if you do, just remember you can call him any time of the day or night.
Please, I'm always available.
and find out. Okay, then we'll move on to agenda item number 6, the Governor's Water Augmentation, Innovation, and Conservation Council updates on there. So, Ms. Norris, are you there?
Hi, I am. I'm in the room. Tile today.
Well,
yeah.
we can't see that here on my phone, so. Okay,
well,
so go ahead, take it away, please.
Excellent. Hi, everybody. My name is Jenna Norris. I coordinate the Governor's Water Council, and today I will be sharing a brief update with you all about the recent activities of the Council. Next slide. I did want to share on this slide here, there is a link to the Governor's Water Council webpage. And on that webpage, you can find all of the meeting materials for the 4 committees of the Council, as well as the 2 subcommittees. Any outcomes or outputs from the Council or committee would also be posted here, as well as a meeting calendar, which includes links to upcoming meetings, past meeting recordings, presentations, etc. So there's a lot of great information on that webpage, so I just wanted to make sure it was included here. Next slide. So the Council meets quarterly and last met on July 15th. The meeting recording for that meeting is linked in the upper right-hand corner of this slide. During the Council meeting, the committees that had met since the March Council reported back about to the Council on their activities. The activities reported by each committee are listed on the left-hand side of this slide here, and so I'll quickly go through those. So the Long-Term Water Augmentation Committee reported they had heard a presentation on the findings of the Finance Subcommittee and a presentation on the Water Supply Development Fund from Daniel Dialessi of WIFA. The Desalination Committee reported that they had heard a presentation on the findings of the Legal and Regulatory Subcommittee. And at this Council meeting, the chair then tasked that Desalination Committee to resolve any remaining legal questions regarding the topic of brackish groundwater and report back to the Council. And finally, the Post-2025 AMAs Committee reported on the timeline and strategy for that committee moving forward. And the co-chair shared that the committee had selected 3 issue briefs to focus efforts on as they move forward into the solution phase. Other agenda items covered during that July council meeting included a presentation from Speaker of the House, Rusty Bowers, on the Drought Mitigation Revolving Fund, as well as a discussion on additional management plans in which Representative Griffin presented on legislation she had brought forward in 2018 to establish one additional management plan, and the council chair, Director Bushatsky, presented on a DWR proposal from 2018, which was to establish 3 additional management periods. Next slide. The next council quarterly meeting is scheduled for September 16th, so coming up in just a couple weeks here. That meeting will be from 10 to noon, and the link on this slide will take you to the meeting page, which will include the WebEx login information, and a reminder email will be sent out to the council and committee distribution list in the upcoming week or 2. Next slide. So now we'll move on to committee updates. The committees have been quite busy. The non-AMA Groundwater Committee is chaired by Representative Griffin and Jamie Kelly, and this committee has not met in 2021, and their last meeting was in December of 2020. During that meeting, they did hear a presentation by the department's Chief Legal Counsel, Ken Slowinski, on irrigation non-expansion areas, as well as a presentation from Representative Cobb on legislation introduced to establish rural groundwater management areas. The next meeting for this committee has not yet been determined. The Desalination Committee is chaired by Henry Day, who replaced Philip Richards earlier this year. The committee last met on August 26th, so last week, and during that meeting they heard a presentation from ADWR Counsel Jennifer Himes on brackish groundwater and Arizona law, and at the conclusion of that presentation, the committee does plan to bring a recommendation on this topic to the council at the September 16th council meeting. Next slide. Thank you. Continuing with committee updates, the Long-Term Water Augmentation Committee, which is chaired by Wade Noble, met on August 3rd. That meeting recording is linked here, and I will point out that his presentation does include a good bit of information about Santa Cruz AMA, so it might be of interest to you all in particular if you were not able to attend. And so at this meeting, the committee heard a presentation from Senior Research Hydrologist here at the department, Keith Nelson, on the potential for enhanced aquifer recharge at a regional scale. This committee does plan to continue the conversation around the potential for recharging stormwater and flood runoff in subsequent meetings, and the next meeting date for this committee has not yet been determined. The Storage Site Subcommittee, which is a subcommittee of the Long-Term Water Augmentation Committee, met on February 26th and provided input on a potential water storage sites on state trust land report. This is a report required by House Bill 2249, and that report has now been, at the time that I'm presenting now, delivered to the required recipients. And that report includes 331 potential underground storage sites on state trust land. In addition to that report, the subcommittee also provided comments on a guide to underground water storage site selection, and that will accompany the report that I just shared with you all to help entities choose an area where it is most feasible and makes the most sense for them to perhaps recharge. So that guide is now being finalized by the department. Next slide. And last but not least, you have an update on the post-2025 AMA committee. This is chaired by Warren Tenney and Cheryl Lombard. Cheryl Lombard replaced Timothy Tamir in March of this year as co-chair. This committee has been very busy and has met twice since the last quarterly council meeting. As I mentioned earlier, the committee co-chairs established a strategy to identify the issues that are all compiled in the issue brief this committee has produced. The identified issues are groundwater in the Assured Water Supply Program, unreplenished groundwater demand, and the hydrologic disconnect. The committee met on June 22nd to hear a presentation from Chief Hydrologist Jeff Inwood and Deputy Counsel Aisha Vora on groundwater and the Assured Water Supply Program. The committee met again on August 10th and heard a presentation from myself and Natalie Mast on unreplenished groundwater demand. And the committee will be discussing the final remaining issue, which is the hydrologic disconnect, during the upcoming meeting, which is scheduled for next week on Thursday from 1 to 3. And then at the council meeting, the committee plans to brief the council on these 3 presentations they've heard and begin the solution phase for the committee to address these identified issues. Next slide. So I know that was a lot of information, but as I said, the council and the committees have been quite busy. So if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is on the slide here. And that concludes this presentation. So thank you again for your attention.
And thank you, Jenna. Do we have any remarks, comments, questions from the GUAC?
No, sir.
Oh,
No.
You know what?
I've got.
Yeah, and go, please go ahead, and I got some for you too. So yeah, go ahead, please, Alex.
The recharge facilities or locations that were selected, is there anyone in the Santa Cruz AMA?
I don't know the answer to that definitively off the top of my head, so I don't want to answer. But I do have that guide posted to the website, and so I can send you a link to the location of the storage facilities if that would be helpful. It's 331 sites all on state trust land, and so it is possible, but I don't want to answer definitively.
Okay, thank you. You send me that information. I appreciate it.
Sure.
You know, and that goes into the next thing I was going to say, Alejandro, on there is the one is, and you kind of answered the question. I was wondering if the city was involved with that committee or following the long-term water augmentation committee work, and then also the what I'd like maybe we can put on the next meeting, Alejandro, is the kind of an update on anything that's going on with the city's catchment and recharge work at maybe a couple of the small catchments and how that's working out. And the question I have to the committee is would we also like to hear from the county on what they're doing, or do we dare bring John Hayes to a meeting?
Maybe we can pick a date that he's on vacation. Not that I dislike John. John's a very nice guy, and I've known him for years and years. Very nice guy. It's just that you need a long meeting when you get him started. So. Yes, but what about that, Alejandro? Could we get an update on just because I know there's projects and things that were built, also with the city and then also on the county side, and I remember seeing some designs for them and when they were starting construction on them, but it would be nice to get an update as to where they are, any kind of estimate of how well they're working, or maybe even the sort of volumes that they've been able to recharge.
I really don't have any information right now, but what I can tell you is that the county has been really interested in moving along with a project for multi-purpose project that's inside of the city to make a recharge facility together with the Forest Service and have a floodplain kind of control facility that serves the purpose of recharging the water, control the peak flooding events, and maybe creating some wildlife environment for the forest. So that's what I know. And I just had a meeting 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago with one of the organizations, a private group that's buying land for conservation. I think the group is called Land Conservation Management or something like that. I don't remember exactly the name, but they are really interested in participating in doing recharge and water conservation in this area. So that's all I know for now. The county, I don't know exactly where they're planning outside of the city.
Oh, okay. And would probably would Jesus Valdez be the guy to talk to? Yeah,
probably that's the best bet.
Okay, so I will do it if the GUAC is interested. I can, between now and the next meeting, probably reach out to Jesus and just tell him we'd be interested in what's going on there at the county level, and have them give us sort of a quick and dirty cook's tour of what they're what they've got maybe coming down the pipeline, or what they'd like to see coming down the pipeline.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay. And anybody think that would be a bad idea? Or so, okay, I'll talk to Jesus and see about maybe getting him at the next meeting. So, okay, if we got nothing further on that, if we want to go to the management plan updates, and we're all getting old because a lot of us remember the first management plan, and but so McKenna, if you want to fill us in on where we are with the fifth management plan work groups.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chairman Larkman and members of the council. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So my name is McKenna Welsh. I am a management plan specialist at ADWR, and today I will be going over the management plan's updates, as well as updates to the fifth management plan conservation programs. So this is the statute that we are working under to develop the fifth management plans. The statute states that the plan shall be adopted only after public hearings. They shall include continuing mandatory conservation programs, and they shall be designed to reduce withdrawals of groundwater. Next slide. We started the fifth management plans work group process in July of 2019. Since then, we've been developing the fifth management plan's conservation programs with extensive stakeholder input. We intend to have the initial fifth management plan drafts complete by the end of this year, so that we can publish those drafts early next year. Next year, we will present the drafts to the GUACs for recommendations, and we will also be working through the promulgation process. All 5 fifth management plans are on track to be adopted by the end of next year, which will make the conservation programs effective starting January 1st, 2025. Next slide. All 5 fifth management plans are being drafted simultaneously, and the plans largely match across the AMAs. However, if you have suggestions for AMA customization, we would be happy to hear them. We have presented draft regulatory language at the management plans work group meetings, and that language is available on our 5MP concepts page for review. Next slide. So I will be giving a summary overview of the various conservation program proposals. First, we have the Agricultural BMP Program. The Agricultural BMP Advisory Committee was reestablished by executive order last year and through multiple meetings developed recommendations for the Fifth Management Plan's agricultural BMP program. The committee recommended updates to the list of approved practices and points targets. On the list of approved BMPs, 9 new BMPs and 13 changes to existing BMPs were recommended. The updates were based on changes in technology in agricultural practices, the inclusion of maintenance, and clarification of language. A substitute BMP was also recommended in each category. A procedure for adding new BMPs was also included in recognition of needing a way to add new BMPs to the approved list as technology develops. The committee recommended changes to the minimum points targets in 3 categories, which reflects an increase in conservation in the Fifth Management Plans. There was no change to the total points required to participate in the program, which remained at 12 points. Next slide. The Integrated Farm Program is a new agricultural conservation program developed as an alternative to the base and BMP programs. This program is voluntary, and it is an allotment-based program that would allow multiple IGFRs to be combined under one reporting umbrella. So this is similar to how IGFRs can report together in the BMP program, but instead of implementing BMPs, the allotments from participating rights under the same owner-operator could be combined. That owner-operator could then use the water anywhere on the combined footprint. The total allotment would have a cut to the aquifer or a % reduction of that total combined allotment. This program reduces the administrative burden of having to report and exchange flex credits on each individual right, as in the base program, but it does not require the implementation and reporting requirements on individual bees that's required in the BMP program. Instead, the Integrated Farm Program has the ease of an allotment-based program and the administrative benefit of the BMP program. The link on this slide will take you to the draft Fifth Management Plan agricultural regulatory language if you would like to review these programs in more detail. Next slide. The Municipal Non-Per Capita Conservation Program is a BMP program. Municipal providers are required to implement a number of BMP points determined by their service connections. In the Fifth Management Plan proposal, we adjusted the number of service connections by tier and added an additional tier so that providers would be more evenly distributed across the tiers. We also increased the number of BMP points required per tier and added a requirement that BMP points must be earned from a minimum number of categories to increase the diversity of BMPs being implemented. We added a new planning category, which contains BMPs related to integrated water and land use planning and other types of long-range planning activities. Lastly, we adjusted many of the BMP's implementation and reporting requirements to collect more quantitative data that can be used to determine whether a BMP is effectively conserving water. Next slide. So the Municipal GPCD program is an allotment-based program. The Fifth Management Plan GPCD requirement calculation maintains the same default, minimum, and maximum structure seen in the Fourth Management Plan, but the calculations were updated to use rolling averages in order to provide more realistic requirements that still result in groundwater conservation. We heard feedback that the previous calculations were confusing and outdated. They were not responsive to changes in the provider's service area. In some cases, these calculations resulted in unrealistic GPCD requirements, either being much higher or lower than what the provider was actually achieving. To address all these concerns, we have looked for more straightforward calculations that would result in GPCD requirements that are realistic but still reduce withdrawals of groundwater. So under the 5 MPs, the default is calculated using a 3-year rolling average of the provider's GPCD minus 1%. The minimum is calculated using the provider's previous year GPCD requirement minus 1%, and the maximum is calculated using a 5-year rolling average of the provider's GPCD. To ensure that the Fifth Management Plan proposal would result in greater conservation, we looked at the total volume of the Fourth Management Plan GPCD requirements. versus what the Fifth Management Plan GPCD requirements would have been if they became effective in 2010. So the chart on this slide shows the total Fourth Management Plan GPCD requirement volume in the light blue color and the Fifth Management Plan GPCD requirements volume in the dark blue color. We also updated the flexibility account provisions for the Fifth Management Plan. The current flexibility account, which is there for variations in precipitation across the different EMAs, ranges from a negative limit of -10 to -20 and a positive limit of 30 to 60. ADWR is proposing to streamline this flexibility account provision across all the AMAs and proposes the middle range of -15 and a positive amount of 45 for all AMAs. Under the Fourth Management Plans, all sources of water were included in the GPCD calculation except direct use effluent and effluent recovered within the area of impact. Under the draft Fifth Management Plans, all sources of water will be included in the GPCD calculation except non-potable direct use effluent and non-potable effluent recovered within the area of impact. The rationale for changing the water types included in the GPCD calculation comes from the changes in value of water over time. With the scarcity of all water types, there have been changes in the way the water community values effluent and their water portfolios. We updated this calculation to recognize the value of all potable water sources, including potable effluent. So I know I covered a lot there. This slide also has a link to the draft Fifth Management Plan municipal regulatory language, which has everything I just described in more detail. Next slide. So next I will go over the turf conservation program proposals. While developing the Fifth Management Plan Golf Course Conservation Program, the following goals were in mind: reducing withdrawals of groundwater, creating an equitable program, incorporating realistic practices into the allotment method, and increasing simplicity and transparency. Previous golf conservation programs were very complex and difficult to understand for both staff and the regulated community. The final conservation program consists of an allotment method, allotment additions, and the effluent adjustment. The allotment method consists of different acreage limits and application rates for different aspects of the golf course, such as turf, low water use acres, and surface water acres. However, the method is just a way to set the allotment, and golf courses may still use the water on their course as they see fit. Next slide. The non-golf turf conservation program has few changes from the Fourth Management Plan that are centered on the method used for developing the maximum annual allotment. Similar to the golf program, our goal was to include realistic practices and realistic application rates. The turf application rates were adjusted to represent the application rates and proportions of different uses of turf, such as decorative and athletic uses. The resulting application rates were very similar to those in the Fourth Management Plan. The biggest change to the non-golf turf program is to the low water use acres application rate. This updated number better incorporates scientific data and more closely reflects the needs of low water use acres. As with the golf program, the non-golf program was adjusted for each AMA. Next slide. The department held a public meeting on July 14th, detailing and discussing potential proposals that would simplify the recharge and recovery programs by reducing the regulatory and administrative burden on both applicants and ADWR staff. ADWR is currently considering feedback and comments received from the stakeholder community on these proposals. Next slide. So we have shown the 5MP concepts page before, but we are still encouraging stakeholders to explore this page to get more information on the conservation program proposals. This page includes interactive dashboards, illustrations and graphics, and summaries of the corresponding work group meetings. It also includes comments from the stakeholder community that we have received on the various concepts and proposals. The link to this page is included at the top of this slide. Next slide. And lastly, as a reminder of the management plan promulgation process, like I mentioned, we will be releasing the initial drafts of the 5th management plans early next year. Following that publication, we will take comments from GUACs and the regulated community. We will then publish updated drafts based on those comments, and will begin the formal hearing and promulgation process, which will also include a formal comment period. So what I want to highlight here is that there are still several opportunities for comment throughout this process. Slide. Thank you for bearing with me. I know that was a ton of information. That's all I have for you. I'm happy to take any questions or comments anyone may have.
Okay, thank you. And we'll open it up for questions if anybody's got any. And okay, this is something, and I'll just say that this is something as a GUAC. I've been sitting in a lot on the BMP and the agricultural subcommittee meetings. I'm not a member, but I sat in on those. It doesn't, because of my ag interests here in Santa Cruz County, and it's not that applicable what what they're doing there to us, with maybe the exception of the integrated farm concept, which is interesting. I was really glad to see something like that come out of the BMP program. I think it makes a lot of sense. But as far as the a lot of what's going to go into that BMP program, just because of the nature of our ag here, is probably not going to affect us too much. The other thing I would have is on the city is and I guess this question would be for Alejandro, is there much coming down in the 5th management plan pipeline that is going to affect the city?
To tell you the truth, I haven't read really completely what's being proposed, but I don't see a lot of difference of the previous management plan. So to tell the truth, I don't know for sure.
Okay, well, I just encourage all of us in our sort of different interests just to kind of keep a, I mean, we're in a different position than a whole lot of the other AMAs, but just to kind of keep, half an eye on this anyway, so we don't get sandbagged by something. So far, it's fine. I don't see any problems for us on the horizon, but I guess I would just exhort anyone to pay attention if they're inclined on that. So, and are there any more questions for McKenna on this? No, well, thank you, McKenna. And then we are looking at, okay, well, we just kind of had a call to the council all the way through this whole meeting, as is usual. And, do we have any of the public, any other interested parties besides the GUAC on?
Mr. Chair, we have a total of 21 people joining us today. So there are some members of the public.
Okay.
Not sure if they're interested in commenting.
And so I would, and if they've got any comments, I'd ask them, stick it either in the comment box or however you want to do it. Usually we got Ben Lomeli out there in the wings or somebody like that paying attention, but and as usual here, we're pretty informal. So anybody in the public, if they've got, questions, concerns, something like that, usually they all know how to get a hold of me or talk to somebody on the GUAC. So do we have anything coming in from the public right now?
We do not have anything coming in right now.
Okay, well, it's the dog days of summer, but it's been raining here, so as we always say, once the rain starts, all of our problems are over here.
Right, you're all happy. It's just windy and cloudy here. No rain yet.
Oh, okay. Well, down here it looks like Ireland. It's so green. So
as usual, we're jealous of you down there, but glad to hear someone's getting rain.
Except for the weed.
So. Yeah. I mean, I did. I lost my pickup truck overnight because I parked it out there and the weeds grew up over it. But anyway, so okay, if we have nothing else, I'm gonna. Are we ready to adjourn? I don't want to cut anybody off if anybody's got something else.
Can we see if there's anybody that's got anything that they would like to see on the agenda of the next meeting? I do have one. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Okay, yeah, please go ahead. And I did mention about the recharge stuff, and I'm going to try to talk to Jesus Valdez. But
okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
What I'd like to see us do is go back and review the augmentation funding that we have stashed away, and what's the possibilities of the future, what we might put it to use to, or just keep on collecting it, or if they want to loan it to me, I'll take care of it for them, whatever. But I'd like to review the augmentation funding and what we've got cooking and what we might do in the future with it.
And that's a good idea. And if we can put that on the agenda for discussion, because if we do get, both either the city or the county or, the Forest Service or whoever's going to talk about some of the augmentation and recharge, that's maybe something we can talk about as part of the package.
Yeah, I
like that one.
If as part of that deal, if Kyle or whoever he turns it over to on that other funding, the industrial bank or money or so forth, whether we got a separate account in Santa Cruz or that just all flows into Phoenix or Tucson.
I have a suggestion, if I may.
Yeah, please, Alejandro.
Yeah, you know that for the Santa Cruz AMA, data is key for whatever we do here. And I know that in the past, we stopped monitoring some of the gauges and some of the wells that we have here. And maybe we can improve that a little bit. And I don't know what the department feels about it, but I think what we reduced in the past, to see the potential to improve on that.
Okay, and that was because we used to have, besides the gauging stations on the surface water, we had a number of wells back when Mark Perez was doing a lot of the monitoring, and we had a good, they were done in a good periodic fashion too, and there were a lot of them. So that's something to think about is if, and I don't think it would be hard to get participation and get access to, to some of the wells if the department or somebody was going to monitor them. And if you've got, Alejandro, you've got, well, most of your concern is going to be anything upstream from the Highway 82, right?
Yeah, and yes, that's my main concern. But also, now with technology, we can have more transducer installs and maybe automatically sending that information to the department that could give us a better picture of what's going on in the whole AMA. And of course, upstream is better for everybody because we know exactly what's coming down in the system.
That would, let's see if we can put that on the agenda for us to go over is because I think if we had some sort of program or something in mind, we could probably approach, and I'm thinking of the bigger ag guys who, they have wells, good wells, and if they would be on board with having transducers on their wells and, or at least on some of their wells, and, get this, get this information out there. And that might, and if we had a program for doing that, we could approach some of these landowners, private well owners, and who'd have good indicative kind of wells, and maybe prevail on them to allow some data to come out of their wells.
Yeah, I think that's the only way that we can have a program like that with the participation of the private property and all the people with wells and the department, because the department would be the one collecting the information and making the interpretation of the changes that we may see to that monitoring program.
Yeah, and mostly, at least on the ag side, I mean, most of the landowners are very interested on what's going on with their static water level, down the hole. So, okay, yeah, let's put some discussion of that on the agenda, and we'll try to fold it in with the sort of the augmentation, the monies that are available, and then a possibility. And if the department could let us know, maybe talk to somebody in the monitoring and maybe let us know what might be involved with saying, getting transducers on, say, maybe even just a dozen wells or something in the AMA.
Yeah, definitely. We would be glad to do that and bring that information to the next meeting. I think it's a good idea.
Okay, great. Anybody else have anything out there? Fortunately, we got Ron and Alejandro as the geniuses who come up with this stuff, and the rest of us just sit there and think, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea."
We got to stir up the mess, right? The pot.
That's right.
Hey, I just want to, as long as we're doing this, I wanted to put out warning too. Before the rain started, I built a great big wall all around my private property, and I've collected all the rainwater that's felt within that property. And I just want to let you know I'm not releasing it. I'm keeping it for myself.
Okay.
That's how's it going to get to Nogales' wells if you do that?
No, it's not going to. Stay in my well. Everybody done that, there would be no water problems. Everybody collected their rainwater, there'd be no problems.
Not in a year like this, there wouldn't. Last year would have been a little tough.
Yeah.
But, okay.
I think you guys are rubbing it in our faces now up here in Phoenix.
That's right. But what is what's the date for the next meeting?
We don't have a date set yet. I think the plan was to do early next year when the management plans are ready to present and ask for your recommendation. But if we can put an agenda together and there's enough to go around, then we can schedule one before the end of the year.
Okay, well, you know what? Think about that there at the department. If there's enough stuff, we've kicked around a few things to be on the agenda. And I better underline and then try not to lose my notes here. Where I've got Jesus Valdez on the recharge. So let's do. I mean, I guess we can tentatively think about midwinter, but if and this for the other people on the GUAC is if we you know, if there is something again about, you know, the monitoring wells or the recharge, like say, you know, Alejandro from your side on there, and I'll talk to Jesus Valdez. Maybe we get something going, you know, early winter, late fall, maybe, you know, November or something like that.
Yeah, I'd be fine with maybe to give more time to the department and the county. Maybe late November, early December would be a good idea.
Yeah, let's just keep that in mind, and I better write that down too.
You know, it's probably not going to be feasible, but you know, it'd be nice if sometime we could get back to in-person meetings. You know, but
we really need to.
Yeah, I'd like to see that the department people that are representing are actual people and not robots. You know, too. So.
You know, well, we were definitely pushing.
Let me just run this idea past, and maybe that would solve some of the problems. And I guess I will impose on the city is even if the department is you know, hiding, because not only do we have COVID down here, we get West Nile virus and Zika and everything else. So maybe you guys don't want to come down here, but maybe at least for the GUAC itself, if you know, if we could meet over at, and I'll volunteer Alejandro's the digs over there at Public Works for the city. If at least you know, yeah, I mean, maybe we could do that, and at least we could get like the GUAC in the same room.
Yeah,
I think that's a good idea. You know, even if the department people can't come down, maybe the GUAC could still be part of all one meeting, but we'd have a person to person, face to face.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me know. I'm glad to host the meeting here.
Okay, because that was pretty convenient, you know, when the city was letting us use the room over there in Public Works. Yeah.
Right.
So, okay. Okay, and I will really, anybody can call me and nag me if I've done anything on the list right here, you know, in the interim time. My wife will tell you that I work better when I'm nagged. So, because otherwise I try to, you know, I'm the world's worst procrastinator. But are we ready to adjourn? Gentlemen,
I just would like to put a bow on the next meeting conversation. I'll have some internal discussions and see exactly what the timeline is looking like for the management plans. If those are going to be ready early January, then we may wait until then. But if it's going to be more of a February down there, then we'll shoot for the fall.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, I guess, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
No move. Got all kinds of motions to adjourn.
Oh, okay, everybody's ready, so there's at least a second in there. So I'm going to say it's been moved and seconded, and so you know what? We will just, with all that enthusiasm, we will adjourn. I've got 10 minutes till 3.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
See you all sometime.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you.